Good day to you again. I want to try to finish up chapter 5. The Sermon on the Mount is there's just so much into it, and probably each of these chapters are going to take multiple sessions, and it runs us down through chapter 7, and right now we're still in chapter 5, and we're ready for verse 38 through 42. All of these things in chapter 5, all of these things that Jesus talks about are, in my opinion, when you get down to verse 13 and on, the Beatitudes are, well, even that, it's all about your heart and your heart attitude and the way we should look at things and the way we should be. And he's given us solid advice. So let me just start here with verse 38 through 42. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. Pardon me, I'm sorry. I had to drink some water for my throat. Let me start that. Let me start that over. Okay, I'm sorry. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. This is really pretty simple. In the past, they had looked at things like an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, retaliation and repaying. Retaliation, this is more retaliation than restitution, because you're saying, okay, if you've blacked my eye, I'm going to black yours back, and if you, poke my eye out, I'm going to poke out yours, and if you, tire my tooth out, I'm going to this. It's pretty rough. It's retaliation. But Jesus is saying, wait, don't do that. Don't do that anymore. Do not resist the one who is evil. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. The idea here is to just have a peaceful, loving heart. And, sometimes we have to understand that other people are, maybe they're not even truly evil, though this does say evil. This does say do not resist the one that is evil, but let's just move on from them. I guess if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. I mean, rather than going through all the trouble and hassle, maybe you just, as long as it's not anything awful, you just, as long, like, you wouldn't let them hurt someone else, or you wouldn't let them hurt your family, or you wouldn't let them hurt the church or God or Jesus. But if they're just, if they're just being that way to you, and you can just be peaceful and just allow them to, have their meanness and go on, But then also, so there is that part. So there is that about, someone slapping you, or do not resist the one who is evil. But there's also, if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. Meaning, if someone's suing you for something, I guess, give them something else as well. It's really talking more. Now, some of these examples are probably a little bit on the extreme side, okay? But just like we had above, where Jesus was being extreme about cutting off appendages and poking your eye out, this is to get a point across, though, that we don't need to respond in kind. When someone is mean and hateful to us, we do not have to respond in kind. I mean, if someone's taking you to court and you need to, fill out some sort of response back, that's fine. But that doesn't mean you have to be the same mean and hateful person that perhaps they are being. Or maybe they're not, but if they are, just saying that you don't have to respond in kind. And there may be times, anyway, it's just a matter of you don't have to retaliate and responding in kind Meaning that just because someone is being mean or wrong to you, you have to respond back and be wrong to them. That's not the way we should be. It's not the way we should live our lives. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. This has always been a strange one to me, and I think of this as, because the old King James says, shall compel thee to go 1 mile, go with him 2. This is someone asking you to go with them, I guess so they wouldn't be alone, or for whatever reason. They're compelling you. They want you, and this says forces you. Compel is not quite as forceful as force to me. Compel could mean they're urging you or they want you to, but you don't really have to. Force makes it sound like you have to, but nonetheless, he says give them more. It says if someone begs you, do not, give to the one who begs from you. If someone's begging from you, give them something. Give them what you can. And do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. If you have it to lend it to them. I will tell you the secret to that, though. The way to be happy with that type of thing is if you decide to loan something to someone, just tell them it's a gift and let them have it. And say, if you repay me, that's fine, but this is a gift, and if you can't repay me or don't repay me, no harm done. It's fine. You just, Now, I know there's times if someone asks to borrow something huge that you may not be able to do that. But I find in my life, for most things, it's like if I can give it up, then I can. If I could loan it out, then I can probably just give it to them, and it'll be fine. So that's just me. That just keeps my peace and keeps everything better for me. I don't like to borrow a lot, loan out a lot, because then you kind of feel like you have to require something of someone, and I really don't want to do that. All right, so let's move down to the next section. The next section. Oh, okay, we're at the bottom. Sorry. All right, so the next section is verse 43. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? You therefore must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Again, this is all about the condition of your heart, how you love and care for people, and how you act towards people. And that's how you let the love of God show through you, is in how you act. So you've heard it said, that you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy, and that is an old thing. But Jesus is saying, no, love your enemy, pray for those who persecute you, and we should. We should love and pray for our enemies, for those who are mean or abusive to us, or, in the wrong toward us, however you want to say it. And it's, you notice in verse 45, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. And the reason is that he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good. Everything he has given us, he's given to all of us, whether we choose to be followers of Jesus and God or not. He's given us all the same, and he loves us all. And he has a place for us all. But it is up to us. It is our choice to come to him, and we should love them, and hopefully our good example will cause them to want to come to God and come to Jesus and be saved. Maybe not, but maybe it could. So for some people, you setting a good example will do that. So, for he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good. He sends rain on the just and on the unjust. All these things. And for if you love only those who love you, what reward do you have? Well, that's, everybody does that. Do not even the tax collectors or publicans do the same? If you greet only your brother, and what more are you doing than anybody else? I mean, if you and when they refer to the Gentiles, they just mean people that don't know God. So if you're only treating the people you know and like a certain way, and you don't treat anybody else that way, then are you really doing anything that any person wouldn't do that doesn't even know God? So we need to be perfect in our hearts. And I know that we are human, and we're probably never going to be perfect. Jesus was perfect, and if we ever attain that perfection, that is wonderful. But we have to admit that we are not Jesus, and we are not God. But we must be perfect. We must do the best we can. We must try to be perfect, and we should always try to act in these manners as Jesus has laid out here, with love and care for each other. And I mean, this goes through all our family. If you read back through all of this, it goes through family, friends, acquaintances, anyone you might know, and maybe folks at work. All this applies to everyone, that you would treat them correctly in love and not be retaliatory. You would not be swearing oaths. You would be honest and straightforward with them. You would love your wife and love your family, and that's who your passion would be for your wife. And you wouldn't hide your godliness. You wouldn't be afraid for someone to notice that you follow Jesus, and maybe that you're going to church all the time and you're not doing some of the things you were. And you might suffer a little persecution for that, but just rejoice in that, and know that that God loves you, and that if that happens, you are, let me just read it here. You are blessed. You are blessed when others persecute you or revile you, because now you're a new person. You're a new Christian, and or even an old Christian like me. Either way, doesn't matter. If people are doing that, that just means that you're blessed, and there's nothing wrong with that ever. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 5, and in our next session we'll start with chapter 6. We still got 2 chapters for the Sermon on the Mount, so this is pretty big, and it's going to take a while to get through all the points. And I'm sure that some better people than me would have even more points and more to say. And but I'll try to just do the best I can, and I hope that blesses you in some way. So God bless you, and take care.